You know, Thomas, I told him so. The team, some of the people on the team and in the conclave, they said you were crazy when you started calling out Sessions a few months ago as being a problem. And now they're having to eat crow because of, the last move that Sessions made. This is just absolutely ridiculous.
It's absurd. We've been waiting for him to wake up from his Rip Van Winkle long sleep the other day when he spoke to the FBI and actually started taking some of the first actions he's taken that weren't simply, I don't even know what you call his actions, this forfeiture of assets, seizure, and the going against the state marijuana laws. I've made fun of those before, but let's just look at this. He looks over with his half-opened eye and he sees that everyone is saying that it's been a long time. They've been waiting months and months and months, in some cases years, stonewalled by the Department of Justice and the FBI to even give the oversight committees in Congress what is their job, the materials that they need to see if they are doing their job, if the DOJ and the FBI are doing their job. And we know they're not. That's the reason that, in fact, now Jeff Sessions has dumped again on top of Michael Horowitz another task. So I don't know. Is anybody keeping up with all the tasks that have been dumped on Michael Horowitz? Let's see if we can enumerate them.
Well, let me say, it seems like he's becoming one of those black holes that everything just gets sucked into and forgotten.
Which we predicted. And when Jeff Sessions, so his answer to them is, oh no, everything's cool. There's no problem. There's no obstruction here. Yeah, it takes 4 years sometimes. But let me talk to Christopher Wray. Christopher Wray, hey, get him some documents sometime, okay? There it is. That was Jeff Sessions' big actions. And he said, and I'm really mad now. By the way, can I have that extra donut over there? That was his big reaction. He woke up and he had his cookies and his milk. And that's it. Now he's gone back to sleep. He said, remember, when he assured all of us that it was all going to be okay because Horowitz has 500 people on his team on $100 million a year to spend on his Office of Inspector General investigation of the Department of Justice collusion with the FBI and the politicalization between the FBI. And then what was put on him? Leaks. Oh, then he had to go after the leaks. Then what was put on him? Then he had to go after this question of now FISA warrant. And the FISA warrant is the entire dossier thing. So that's going to cover up all of those. So anything that has arisen, Rosenstein and Sessions have just said, no, we're giving it to Michael Horowitz to do. Please read our article on Michael Horowitz, and you'll see that he is the witch hunter. He's as corrupt as any of them. He's being prepared to be the next head of the FBI or DOJ.
Well, Thomas, interesting thing is I'm noting here, I take notes on what you talk about, and I've got Michael Horowitz here and Rod Rosenstein, and I know we're going to be getting to John Huber, and I'm saying, well, wait a minute, those three guys, they're all senior executive services.
That is correct, and so is John Huber, who you just mentioned, this Attorney General in Utah, who, from what I can read from Sessions' statement himself, it sounds as if this is the one person. Now remember, I was yelling about this earlier. I'm not going to yell so much anymore because this is old. I don't know. It's an old strategy. So he told everybody, like when they demanded there to be a special investigation on Christopher Steele, who created the dossier, crickets from the Justice Department. When they asked that he look into Uranium One. Why? Because Andrew McCabe has already been connected to Clinton's and the Clinton Foundation, and that has to do with Uranium One and Clinton's receiving the payoff. What's happening with that? Crickets. Oh, how about the investigation of the Clintons that they moved now to Little Rock, Arkansas, and nothing has happened? Crickets. How about the person he assigned, not even from the DOJ, but from the FBI to investigate Arwan Imwan, who has basically conducted successfully the largest espionage scandal and theft in American history? He assigned one FBI junior agent first year. Crickets. Why didn't Sessions respond to the Office of Inspector General for the Congress that said that on over a dozen charges of espionage activity, which they had the evidence for, that's what the Inspector General is supposed to do, is bring forth the crime. He brought forth the crime, took it to the Department of Justice. took it to Rosenstein, took it to Sessions. What happened? Crickets. You got it. Okay, so then what happens when they demanded that there be a second counsel appointed repeatedly over a number of issues, not one issue. All those issues were then dumped on Horowitz, and they said, we are waiting for the extensive findings of the... No, yeah, they're waiting until the Mueller investigation closes, exactly as we told you, so they can sweep up the dirt. That's what they're there for. Inspector generals sweep up the dirt, give it to their bosses, and there's cover-ups. Hello, that's the way it works, folks. Just look in history. I've been involved in numerous IG activities, and they always turn out predictable because it depends on who they're turning the report into. They're going to turn it into Jeff Sessions, Rip Van Winkle, Mr. Magoo. He's got half of his left eye open, I think, a little bit, but we can't tell if he's still asleep. I think he might be. We declared him enemy of the state some time ago because of these activities. We declared that when he said he was appointing one person. Now, the article now, and his words, you can't tell, still sounds like it's one person. Not only that, it sounds like he's saying that he must do his work away from Washington, D.C. He's in Utah, so I guess the investigation is going to happen from Utah. So the largest espionage cases, the largest coup d'etat, the George Papadopoulos case, which was completely tainted, the FISA court requests for Carter Page and Papadopoulos, all tainted, all corruption, the Strzok Page 50,000 memos, all of those are going to be done by one guy in Utah. Oh, he's told to us, don't worry about a thing. He's not a Washington insider. He's not part of the deep state. He is outside of Washington. That is a lie. He is a member of the senior executive service. I believe he...
No, he is.
No, I'm not sure of that. I just think it's SES. I don't think it's SEE, but it's one of them.
There are many variations of senior executive services, as our listeners know, and sometimes we might get them slightly confused, but we're talking about the same kind of shadow government. It's a formal operation that they've infiltrated the United States government. And they operate, in cloak and dagger, but they have a name. They even have their own flag. They wear lapels, and they help each other out. And so Jeff needs some help here. He probably looks in Washington, and all of his SES judges are got their hands full with other matters. So he goes to his buddy out in Utah because they're all part of this kind of this cult thing that's happening.
And it's perfectly legal. Started in 1978 by Jimmy Carter and Christine... whatever her name is. Marcy. And basically what it is, it's exactly what you described, but it's completely legal. And that's what they do nowadays. They actually pass laws so you can do illegal stuff, or certainly highly unethical. So if we say you're a member of the SES, that basically means that you're part of a governmental agency that is there to slow down the gears, to make sure the bureaucratic status quo stays as it is.
No, it was to overtake our government.
Well, that's...
And once Hillary had been in office, she would have just turned the key, and that would have been it. That would have been all.
They had almost complete control. Even Joram Corsi says that SES is 10,000 people, mostly appointed by Obama, that can make it very difficult to work for Trump in the government because basically he's meeting the resistance of these people all along the way. Now, we've pointed out to you so many documents, so much evidence, and now we are preparing, through the help of our good friends at Americans for Innovation, a deck of 52 cards with the top SES members that will shock you to see that these people were hired with irregular hiring practices. They're paid more than everyone else. They're outside of the standard civil service general schedule payment. They are above all of it. They actually start at the top, above the top rank, and then it goes corrupt from there. Depending upon these councils that are the review boards, and there's multiple review boards, you can be paid huge amounts of money. I just read now, just pulled up by the miners, guess how long tenure is for SES? 1 year. After that, you basically can't be fired ever, and once you have your tenure, you get your retirement for the rest of your life. So you may only work for 1 year and get for retirement. These extraordinary payroll and hiring agreements are astounding that we're coming across.
And Thomas, you say it's legal because they've used laws to sneak in the way they have, but that doesn't mean it's not unconstitutional.
Oh, no.
Okay, and so people have to hear that, because we want to start questioning that who they are.
Who would be part of a system knowing of such disparity in the fact that there's no merit involved? It's cronyism, it's capitalism at its worst, it's graft, it's nepotism, it's parasitical. It is corporate imperialistic infusion into our system legally, as you say, not constitutionally, and certainly not ethically, and not morally. But that's okay, because these people all go into the court systems. They go right into the Supreme Court. They go into all the federal courts.
Yes, Judge Scalia was SES, and we posted several prominent judges.
Now, folks, why in the world would a Supreme Court justice need to have special circumstances for their hiring that would pay them more than other people, give them awards to give them bonuses that we have yet to even find out what those awards and bonuses actually bring as remuneration, which is very odd that there's secret payments for people that are given awards from a committee of 500 lawyers who are the Supreme Review Board, that basically are looking at all of these 10,000 people. And now we are told there's many more, and we're finding that there are many more than we even thought, but there's at least 10,000 right now. At least 8 or 9,000 of them were appointed during the Obama administration. So it leans so with such partisan attitudes that why wouldn't a Horowitz already call that to mind if he was looking for partisanship between just the Justice Department and the FBI? So Horowitz isn't bringing anything to light, and the person who's now been appointed isn't going to bring anything to light. As we told you, John Huber, or however you say his name, he's going to help Horowitz. One guy from Utah is going to help Horowitz and his staff of 500 cover up the dirt that is being made by Mueller during his investigation, that was made by the attacks against Trump, both from the CIA, the FBI, and DOJ, and partially for a while the NSA, until Admiral Rogers pulled back and ordered an audit and caused at least the FISA court, some of the FISA court corruption to come forward, but it still barely changed the FISA court. And then even after that, they continued to have renewals on the fake, on the Carter Page's Title I, Section 302, which is like, that's the highest thing you can get. That's saying they absolutely know for a fact that Carter Page is a Russian spy, and he wasn't. He was their FBI agent used in a Russian sting, and he certainly wasn't a Russian spy. He was the opposite. So that dossier, when Rosenstein signed for it, when Mueller signed for it, when McCabe signed for it, when Dana Biante signed for it, and others, they knew they were committing a crime. Horowitz, the second he saw that, is it worth your salt? Which we already showed you who he is. He says he's followed the path of corruption to lead straight to the top to do what? Cover up more corruption. Just look at his path. What did we call it? Horowitz, the witch hunter or something? But anyway, the point is, he's part of this. He's just covering it up. That's the reason we've had no indictments when we have seen so many crimes involved in what happened with the election rigging, the fake FISA warrants, the fake George Papadopoulos counterintelligence out of the FBI counterintelligence department in alignment, direct alignment with the Department of Justice National Security Division. It's so corrupt that anyone could see this, and Americans are upset, and they want Sessions to do something. And now the Congress, I see, is calling for Sessions. He's got to go because he's not doing his job. A child could do a better job. So now think about it. Think this through. I guess we need to spill the beans. We said we would. And also, all 3 Q sites that we were told of that existed all went down at once a couple days ago. And at the top of the page was left a message saying that Jeff Sessions is corrupt and that he's in bed with Hillary, basically Hitlery, and pointed at the Uranium One, and then pointed out all the people who benefited. So now I finally get the message that was posted there. And that message was telling us that Uranium One and Jeff Sessions are one and the same. That makes me think, okay, whatever committees he's on, and he was on, that he was completely complicit with Uranium One. Of course he would have been. I don't know why I never thought of that until just now. Of course he would have been. And the people that they listed there, I couldn't quite get their angle because
Yeah, I saw the pattern. It's like, but why didn't you mention this person or that person?
Yeah.
You know, Trey Gowdy is on that list.
they were showing us the ones we hadn't outed.
Right.
Now, we had already found Jeff Sessions and corruption, but we couldn't prove it through Bush. But when it hit us, when that was listed there by whoever listed that there and whoever took down those sites, thank you for bringing that to our attention. And now, I think they were guiding us. That was some breadcrumbs to us because really, we just saw it today and the day before with Sessions. We now know who Sessions is, and it proves what we said about Sessions. He intends to do nothing. He's going to be nothing more than a fixer like a Mueller or a Comey. He's just going to destroy evidence like a Mueller and a Comey. That's their specialty, destroying evidence against anyone that they're protecting. So what we now see is that the Horowitz is exactly as we said it was. Since Horowitz has not brought forth anybody, how long would it take an investigation on Uranium One to bring forth the criminals that were connected? Well, that investigation went on for 10 years. All he'd have to do is look at the file. Who led that investigation? Andrew McCabe. Who was involved? Clinton Foundation. So do you see? It wasn't the lack of candor. It was exactly what we said it was. The only slip up so far is that Horowitz indicated, and nobody saw this, there's no proof of it, this was just somebody saying it and repeated by others, that Horowitz, that Andrew McCabe was fired because of an indiscretion with a leak concerning the Clinton Foundation. Well, that would be the cover-up for the Uranium One, now wouldn't it? He was in charge of that. He has allowed Uranium One to come to the surface. So they got to take down somebody. But that's not the only thing. Jonathan Weiner came out and whined to the whole world that he was the DOJ direct connection between Hillary's, the Clinton Foundation and APCO Worldwide, that basically was telling the truth about the foundation and the corruption of it. And so he quit. He was Hillary's man in the DOJ. He quit. But on the way out, just like at Donna Brazil, they yell their alibi, hoping that will be the narrative that people will remember their last words on the way out. We didn't believe that. So all the corruption that's going on, and nobody from Horowitz is being told to Sessions that they need to be indicted, then Horowitz is corrupt. And we've said this from the beginning, just knowing his history, but now it's absolutely proof positive from just sheer logic, especially to hear...
You know what it's called on the streets, baby? We're squeezing them.
Street smarts? Oh, squeezing them.
Yeah, we're squeezing them.
Well, he's squeezing himself because he had to do something, so he comes out and now he's going to tell us the secret name. Jeff Sessions is going to tell us the secret name of the one person that he appointed in Utah that was going to take care of everything. And I don't know why anybody else would be worried. Why we would go after Christopher Steele, the criminal who is being chomped to pieces in the lawsuits in court, both here in D.C. and in England. Oh, no, he's not going to follow Grassley's or anyone's recommendation to bring criminal charges, or at least an investigation. He's not going to start a second investigation into the Mueller investigation because it's corrupt. He's not going to start a second investigator or an outside investigator, even though he knows that the DOJ and the FBI are corrupt just by the page-struck memos. Unless, of course, he literally, really has been asleep the whole time. But anyway, let's say he was awake for a minute. Just 1 minute, that's all it would take. And one report from anybody on the street. Please, Mr. Sessions, can I please brief you? Here's what's happened. All these crimes have happened, and you didn't notice them. This one Russian uranium one crime with the Clinton Foundation and the $2 million donated to Bill Clinton and the Clinton Justra Sustainability Growth Fund as the first payment, the $145 million payment after the deal was done. And you can't find any crimes? You don't see a reason to appoint another special investigator that's outside, not in SES, not a deep stater.
They don't know anybody that's not working in SES because that's their boys' club, you know?
That could be true. There's
Got
probably
the girls
not
in
a
it too,
single good corrupt lawyer or politician that's not SES, even all the way up to the Supreme Court. I think you're right, Betsy. So, if he could find an honest lawyer,
that's another
in America,
reason for military tribunals, because the system has become so corrupt in all of the branches it just seems we have to have a court that comes from the outside.
Well, that's where I was going with. And because we know that the grand jury, both of them that were both impaneled by Mueller, are both fake, Judge Contreras was appointed in one of them to overlook the very FISA warrants that he approved with fake documents and fake information presented by the very people like Peter Strzok, who then testified before Judge Contreras again against these people with fake field notes called 302s, both in the questioning of General Flynn and in the questioning of others. And he's obviously been found to be a non-credible witness. So Judge Contreras later was recused himself. Well, why didn't he recuse himself from the beginning? Oh, he was there to actually make sure nobody noticed that as the FISA court judge, that he's the one that allowed these things through. Totally corrupt from the get-go. So Horowitz has to be corrupt from the get-go because none of these things are coming to light. Nobody's being indicted. And Sessions, sorry, we declared him an enemy of the state the other day, and he is. And everything he does seems to indicate more and more. For instance, let's remember this asset forfeiture law he came in and reinstated. That was Eric Holder's way to put billions of dollars into slush funds. And that's what sanctions were about during the Obama age. They were executive orders behind everyone's back with the Treasury, freezing massive assets, claiming them, and then using them as a slush fund. And in some cases, like the money from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the money that was taken from SEC settlements, the money that was taken from HSBC, the money that was taken from UBS, billions and billions and billions of dollars. Does anyone know where it went? That's right. Obama directed it into non-governmental organizations, which then became Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and many other organizations that are out in the street. But remember, Eric Holder, just like Loretta Lynch, just like Obama, literally said, get out on the streets. And Loretta Lynch said there needed to be blood. And his race relations person, what's his name, Al Sharpton, said 2 summers in a row that all the cities in America were going to burn. And he went out and he tried and he promoted it in every way he could. And Obama promoted it and he didn't promote the police. And what did they really want? Chaos in the streets, so that when Hillary came to power, all superpower by executive orders and all the things that were set up and all the NDAA changes that were made and so on and so forth, Hillary would have had the power to do whatever she wanted. And that's that. We would have had no choice. It would have been the end of our republic, the end of the U.S. Constitution, the U.S. Bill of Rights. But mind you, the U.S. Bill of Rights was overthrown with the U.S. Patriot Act, which was then later, when it wasn't even needed, reestablished by Obama as the U.S. Freedom Act. And most people don't know that. They say the U.S. Patriot Act is dead. No, it was rewritten and a few pages were added to it. So you got to be very careful about these sneaky things. So we saw that whoever it was that attacked Hugh said Sessions. Now, we had said Sessions, and we had said from the beginning, no, man, something's wrong with Sessions. And we found out some dirt. We couldn't prove it. Now we get some more dirt. But what they were saying is, and it doesn't take a genius, I don't even have to research this, every one of those people's names that's in Congress benefited by the Uranium One deal. Simple as that. They had insider knowledge. They bought into the company, TNM. They got their payoff. It was a 10-year scam. They protected it for 10 years. Andrew McCabe was the front man. Comey, Mueller were involved in this, covering Hillary, covering these deals, and letting Putin take over our uranium. So Sessions was in on it because why? I don't remember what committees he's on, but I can guarantee you one thing. He had insider knowledge. And I can guarantee you the reason he's not appointing a special counsel is because it would prove the guiltiness of the situation, which might then come back to him. I see now. That's the reason he recused himself from the Russian case. And this is it. Nobody else is saying this. This is why. He knew he had 2 tape recordings of those 2 conversations that he was accused of saying something about sanctions to the Russian minister. They were both tape recorded and he knew that, but he still recused himself. Later he said he forgot they were recorded. That is a lie. He recused himself from all things Russian because he's guilty with all things Russian, especially Uranium One. And so now He can use that as an excuse to defer to Rod Rosenstein, whose wife, who represented Mueller in lawsuits repeatedly, Comey, and both Clintons. That's who Rod Rosenstein's wife is. He signed the FISA warrants. He was right there with Andrew McCabe and all of the corruption with Uranium One. We are talking about the list that was made for us by whoever did that was indicating something to us that it took me days to realize.
Well,
I'm very
and
sorry.
of course we've been so busy, so it wasn't until today that you actually had time to look at some of these things. So, but it was very interesting, and if you haven't looked down, on your screen, I've had a picture of that image from the Q post that lists the names, okay?
Now, as we told you, Horowitz is there to clean up after Mueller, but we also said Mueller had gone too far and might get himself in too deep, and he would only get some low-hanging fruit, and even then maybe not able to prosecute them. That was our prediction. I still stand by that prediction. I still stand by the prediction that Horowitz is there to cover up, and we will not be receiving, 17,000 indictments and Gitmo filled up and wheelchair ramps for.
But they thought they
Daddy
had
Bush.
that Q group fooled, because that was why that PSYOP was running, so that the folks would be focused on what Q wanted them to do.
Q's references to the plan
To trust Sessions.
to trust Sessions. That is absurd. Sessions is basically carrying on the tradition of an Eric Holder and a Loretta Lynch. He's simply doing what you do in politics. You protect other politicians.
But that just shows that Q was such a PSYOP, because it was there. However, it was taken over to ultimately be the gatekeeper to protect Sessions.
Now, who would find a leak? That would be Jeff Sessions. Has Jeff Sessions found any leaks? It took Horowitz to find a teensy tiny leak that Andrew McCabe made. So why hasn't Sessions found any leaks when there are so many leaks springing from everyone in Washington, D.C.? We already have seen on television the leaks over and over. Please, I could list probably 36 of them right now. There are leaks everywhere, Mr. Sessions, and you haven't found a one. You recused yourself from the Russian investigation because you are guilty of all things Russian, and that's just the way to get out of this. You are trying to put everything on Rod Rosenstein, like all good politicians do, and the SES members who stand between you and actually doing a good job, even if you wanted to. You've ordered Christopher Wray to fire Andrew McCabe earlier, and he told you to go jump off a cliff, basically. He refused to follow your order, so you have no power. No one's listening to you. Rod Rosenstein says whatever he wants. I don't even know if he reports to you. I don't think anybody reports to you. I don't know if anyone knows what broom closet you're in. But you're doing nothing. I think you stepped out once to say, I like Eric Holder's idea of confiscating billions of dollars and not giving it back to people that we don't prosecute. Go back in your closet, Sessions. Later out he comes out, I hate marijuana. Come on, this is insanity. And he doesn't do anything about any crime, not one leaker. Trump the other day, they say, fired McMaster's because of the leak that he said, congratulations to Putin for being elected. But you now tell me, Betsy, that there was much more complicated thing going on, that he told Putin, hey, if you want a nuclear war, okay, but we're going to win it. I love that. Is that what happened? Was that the strategy that he used? Was just the art of the deal to Putin to say, yeah, bring it on, sucker? And guess what? He knows it's a bluff, just like little Kim is nothing more, as we've always said, than the megaphone of China while China spirits out the rare earth minerals, even though sanctions are on the country, okay? We've pointed out so many of these things. And what does Sessions do about anything in or out of the country? Nothing. So Sessions is not going to appoint a special counsel to look at Christopher Steele, the dossier, to look at the people who signed the dossier, to look at FISA court abuses, which we now even have in the 2016 December Office of Inspector General FISA court report said that they were in 100% non-compliance, especially the FBI, who basically thumbed their nose at the requirements and didn't file anything. Well, that would explain why they had so much trouble getting that FISA court warrant, Title I, for Carter Page, because they hadn't filed a FISA court warrant for a domestic surveillance because it was just open surveillance on everyone. Even Obama said Take all raw data from the NSA and give it to all agencies and let them decide what to do with it. He wrote an executive order to that effect. So what we're dealing here with is that Sessions isn't out of his league, and he's not asleep. He's an enemy of the state, and he is part of the Horowitz, Mueller, Comey, McCabe, Rosenstein attempt to create a coup d'etat in America right now, folks. It isn't over. The John Brennan generated George Papadopoulos FBI taken over counterintelligence operation against Trump still continues to this very day.